as someone who has spent a long time playing Final Fantasy XIV for nearly 10 years, and then WoW since vanilla, right? Since vanilla WoW, I think the only time I didn't sub was for Shadowlands and Mists of Pandaria. I stopped playing then, so I wasn't in and out. The last FF14 expansion I played was Dawn Trail. I stopped after even before 7.1 released. For World of Warcraft, I did play Dragonflight on launch. Had so much fun with that expansion. I also played War Within. I got close to Keystone Master, but by then a lot of other games that caught my attention released, so I diverted my attention to that instead. Just for context. So, World of Warcraft announced recently a post on their website about housing, and I want to briefly talk about that. This has been a requested feature. This has been vehemently requested as a feature for a really long time. And they already announced this and teased this sometime last year. Sometime last year, they already teased this, but now they have a post that details some of the information regarding World of Warcraft housing. Alright, so I wanna read this together with you guys. So, building in Azeroth, a first look at housing. Right? And this is where as I briefly read this, right, I'll go with you guys step by step. So, the construction of the new housing system in Azeroth is underway, and we are taking you behind the scenes to give you an early look at what the housing development team has been working on. Watch your step and do not mind the dust. Hard hats are not required. Okay, cute. And again, housing is very casual for video game content, right? Like hardcore raiders, Keystone Masters are not going to spend as much time in housing as they would be farming for gear, breaking their improving their time in their dungeons and raising those key levels and stuff, right? They'll be spending more time in that. But like I said before, a huge chunk of the players do not do that. On average, your player in World of Warcraft and FF14 will love something like this. Something very casual. And it's housing. So, we're excited to kick off our first look at housing in World of Warcraft and share some of our philosophies and plans for this new feature with you. First up, we are focusing on our high-level design pillars for housing, as well as talking about a few key areas of housing as we lay the foundation for future discussions. All right. So, when developing such a large new feature, it is useful to start by first defining its pillars. They help the development team get on the same page before we start building, as well as providing a guiding light when making decisions and identifying priorities. Important to note that while these pillars are broad in scope, they are not all-encompassing. So just because something is not mentioned in a pillar does not mean it is not important or is not part of the feature. And I have to give kudos to the World of Warcraft team for laying down the foundation, like introducing not just the flashy bits of it, but no, the foundation, right? Context and all that, right? Because what you do not want in any situation, what you do not want is a house built on sand situation where that's a very nice house. Wow, it's got 3 stories. It's got a nice front yard or garden and a big swimming pool at the back. But it's built on sand. The foundation is very unstable and very hazardous. No, thank you. That is not a situation you want to be in. So, it's nice of them to, well, introduce the 3 pillars of housing. So, these are the 3 pillars. The first one is this, okay? First one is this. Boundless self-expression. Our highest priority is to allow players to build a house that shows off their personal tastes or their warbands, act as a desired backdrop for role-playing, or just allow players to create something in a flight of fancy. The tool set should be easy enough for someone with no 3D experience to be comfortable with and use successfully, but it should be powerful enough that players can surprise us with their creations or drill down to get the tiniest details just right. The gamut? Sorry, I don't know how to pronounce it. The gamut of decor options spans not just the cultures of Azeroth, but the many expansions of World of Warcraft as well. Right. Yoko, what the hell does that mean? Alright, from a Final Fantasy XIV housing experience, okay? From a Final Fantasy XIV housing experience, let's look at this concept art, right? Let's look at this concept art. Now, in FF14, this would be ceiling furnishing, wall furnishing, standard furnishing, and furnishings you can put on the floor and stuff. Now, the thing is, although your options are wide, right? You have a wide variety of options. They are still quite restrictive, okay? And again, it's all about, as they said, boundless self-expression, okay? Boundless self-expression. This looks like your average typical house, right? What an average typical house would look like in World of Warcraft anyway, right? So, obviously, it makes sense that this chest is placed on the floor with a rug. But what if you as a character or a player, you want to put this on top of this shelf here? In FF14, normally this would not be possible. You would have to, I kid you not, this is near Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask or Ocarina of Time item glitching levels. You have to glitch this to the top here. You have to glitch this thing to the top. And like, what if this table, this little, like, it's a hearth, right? I think. What if I want to put it like just this part, all right? This round hexagonal thing. What if I want to put it on top of this table? You'd have to glitch that too. If this is categorized as floor furnishing, you can only put that on the floor. You can't do that. But Yoko, I like the bear rug as a blanket. I want that as a blanket though, unless they have a pattern for the bed that has this bear fur as a blanket. You're shit out of luck, or you're going to have to glitch it in FF14. So I hope in World of Warcraft that is not the case. And again, it should also be powerful enough that players can surprise us with their creations or drill down to get the tiniest details just right. I hope they take into account what people in FF14 have been doing, where their house, if you've seen houses in FF14, the ones that are themed after like Nier Automata, Resident Evil, or actual houses that would actually look good IRL, like a gothic themed house, a modern city inspired apartment house, that kind of thing. A lot of those use glitches to just get right. I hope players in WoW can do that without the glitching, just so less time is wasted, and so that it's less frustrating. That's one thing I do hope. Okay, pillar number 2. Deeply social. World of Warcraft is more fun with other players. Yeah, no shit. And housing should be no different. While players can enjoy housing purely on their own, its systems are designed at a fundamental level to encourage interacting, playing, and progressing with friends, neighbors, guilds, and the wider community in a meaningful way. Alright, I am gonna guess what this means is that some of these furnishings, I'm pretty sure you can get just by clearing social party content. So just clearing a dungeon, getting maybe a certain keystone mastery level, a raid, you'll get some special decor or furnishing to kind of flex it, right? So maybe this thing on the wall can be something like the Reigns of Invincible, right? One of the rarest mounts in the game that people spend a good amount of time farming for, hoping it drops. Maybe for such an achievement, you can get like the Reigns of Invincible and you'll be able to hang it on the wall or something. That would be cool, right? Something to commemorate like your friends helping you do it and stuff. Third and last pillar, long-lasting journey. Housing is built as an evergreen addition to the game with its own roadmap reaching across multiple patches and into future expansions. Housing is not something players should expect to finish, but instead continually look forward to the next housing release, be it new content or systems. This is a long-term commitment for us as developers and offers players rewards all along the way. This is very similar to FF14, where they don't just release it and then they're done. No, they constantly add furnishings, and both indoor and outdoor. And then, of course, there is the Island Sanctuary, which is a more expanded version of housing, where they eventually add new creatures for you to add in your farm, new materials or stuff for you to buy and sell on the market for the Island Sanctuary in-game currency, new cosmetics for you to spend your in-game Island Sanctuary currency hard-earned just by interacting and engaging with it, and that kind of stuff. So I think it's going to be quite similar where, as they said, offers players rewards all along the way. It's a long-term commitment for us as developers. So they will be... this won't be like a one-time thing. This will be a constantly updated feature, right? Which is nice. One important note, even though it is not an explicit pillar, wide adoption is a primary consideration for us as well. Most players should want a house in Azeroth, and if a player wants a house in Azeroth, they can have a house in Azeroth. Furthermore, housing is being designed to scale with the player's interest. If someone wants to spend dozens of hours a week on their house, that's great. If they are only interested in coming and going once or twice a month, that's great too. I am very worried as a Final Fantasy XIV player because this sounds like they are addressing a key issue about housing in FF14, which I will get to later. So, we've seen a lot of discussion and speculation from the community on where players will be able to have houses. This is very important because a lot of players have not forgotten the broken promise that they gave us for Warlords of Draenor, where they were supposed to give us the choice where to place our garrison. Our garrison is like the WoW equivalent of Island Sanctuary, where we have NPCs, there's stuff to do in the garrison. Like, we can fix our gear, get some special quests, send NPC outs for some activities and stuff, and unlock some cosmetics. And one of them was the selfie camera. That's one of the things you can unlock from the garrison. We were supposed to be able to pick which parts of Draenor we'd be able to put our garrison in. Unfortunately, we could not, and they kind of abandoned it. Literally, garrisons were obsolete after Draenor, and I think that's why this long-lasting journey, the third pillar, is what they emphasized. Like, this is not going to be another... it's probably going to be like garrisons in Warlords of Draenor. We're just going to interact with the garrison for one expansion, and then by the next expansion, it's pointless. They clearly do not want that. Or at least their view on housing is not that. They want it to be long-term engagement from the players, which is nice. So, there will be 2 housing zones available at launch, one for Alliance, one for Horde, with more possible places to live in the future. The Alliance zone takes inspiration from Elven Forest with touches of Westfall and Duskwood, and Hordes is inspired by Durotar, its coastline, and Azshara. There are 2 main reasons for this decision. I am glad they are giving us reasons, explanations. Good. Having many housing zones conflicts with the second pillar of designing a feature that is deeply social. In a world where players can live in many different zones, they become increasingly spread out, and even with aggressive sharding, the chance of seeing other players, much less interact with them, drops quickly. This is very true. One of the main aspects of WoW before that a lot of games have put on the sideline is LFGs, looking for groups. Back then in WoW, before I believe it was Cataclysm, I think, all right? I honestly forgot. But there was a time in World of Warcraft, if you wanted to gather a party of 5 people, right? A tank, a healer, and 3 DPS to do a dungeon, regardless if it's normal or heroic, you literally had to type in the alt chat, hey, I'm looking for a tank. I'm looking for a tank because we are going to do Shadowfang Keep. Or we are looking for one ranged DPS because we're gonna do Scarlet Monastery. You had to type that in the alt chat and wait for someone to like message you or reply to you and then invite them. Now, they expedited it with the Dungeon Finder feature. While it is convenient, it does, as they say here in the housing, deeply social, right? They want people to interact. It did break that, it did trade the social aspect of World of Warcraft for convenience. Now, again, there is an argument to be made that it's better, though. That means people can get into dungeons better and quicker. It's more convenient. That is fair. But there is also that charm of the social interactions with other players. And yes, I get it. 2025, very toxic people online, especially on the internet, in games, and social media. But again, the charm of those old days were lost. And I guess it was a necessary like thing to do. Like, I think the cons of that outweighed the benefits of having to type in the alt chat every time, to be fair. But it really is a thing that people do miss. Now, number 2, putting it bluntly, zones are a lot of work. Okay, that's nice. Honest acceptance and just disclosure of like, it's hard work, guys. We'd much rather do a great job with a small number of zones than do a passable job on a large number. This is a philosophy I want open world adventure games, whatever, to embody. Yes, I am looking at you, Starfield. It doesn't matter if there are 100 or 50 or 1,000 planets for me to land on, if all I do is run, jump, gather some materials, and then when I'm over encumbered, I deposit that at the ship, do that again, maybe build a station there, and there's nothing else to do except that same boring loop. I'd rather just have 4 dense planets for me to actually do shit than 10 or 15 where it's the same rehashed, copy-pasted, recycled content that is no different from the last one I visited. So this makes sense. Where they want to do, instead of many options, will give players really good options, although they're small. And I think that is okay. I mean, in FF14, just about every expansion, there's always that comment section where, oh my god, please, I want housing here. And to be fair, a lot of those areas are cool. But in some extent, I see why FF14 has been on a little bit slow in releasing new zones, new housing areas, because they don't want to just implement it for the sake of implementing it or because there is a demand for it. There is clearly a demand, but they want it to make sense. They want it to be quality made, right? And WoW is doing the same thing. They don't want to just do a passable job, right? Like you look at Nagrand, right? A lot of people love Nagrand as an area, and thank you for the hydrate posture check, Skull. A lot of people like Nagrand as a zone in World of Warcraft. The music is great, the aesthetic, the atmosphere, the environment is great. I'd love to live on Nagrand. But if what we have now is just Elven Forest and Durotar, if and when we get Nagrand, I want them to really embody what they say here, right? We'd rather do a great job with a small number of zones. I want them to take their time. I don't want them to just give us Nagrand and then it's like, wow, this is lazy work. Like, you just copy pasted Nagrand as we have it in game, and we just put our houses there. No, it would be nice if there was a portion of Nagrand that was instanced to make it look like a living space. Like, that would be great, and I'm willing to wait for that. All right. So we choose these as our starting points because of how iconic they are for their respective factions and how much they feel like home to so many players already. That is very true. Most players who do not use a level skip, and that is my advice, if you are a new player in WoW, do not use the level skip. Use that for your alts. You always start, depending on your race, you usually start either Eastern Kingdoms or Kalimdor, but you eventually end up in Elven Forest and Durotar for a huge chunk of your quest lines. So, outfitting your home. Here we go. I'm pretty sure this is Alliance. Yeah, this is Alliance. Similarly, there have been discussions in the community on whether housing will be pay-to-play win or not. Okay. Along with other conversations around real-world money. We've been very aligned in our internal conversations that housing is designed to be primarily player first and not revenue first. Blizzard, don't get community noted or receipts for that, please. But yes, nice. Housing will offer hundreds and hundreds of decorations and house customizations via in-game rewards, but will also offer a small number of items in the cash shop as well. Okay, fair. FF14 does the same thing. This is comparable to how transmogs and pets are currently handled in-game versus the shop. We want to allow players to have as many options as possible for creating their perfect home in Azeroth. Okay. I know a lot of people will not like that decision where, cosmetics in a... We have to buy the game, pay a monthly subscription, and then on top of that, we have to pay for cosmetics we want. Like, I know a lot of people who will not like that. Me personally, I do not like that. But like, I'm willing to like middle ground. I'm willing to meet World of Warcraft on a middle ground. And I've said this before. And a lot of people, as much as they don't like it, they kind of have the same opinion as well. If the cosmetics that we can earn for free just by doing stuff, just engaging with the game, is as good as the one we can get in the shop, I think that's okay. I honestly think that's okay. What a lot of people did not like, there was a time where cash shop cosmetics were just drastically better. It's like the more time and budget was spent on the outfits they were selling on the shop than the ones that you could get for free, but you had to work hard to attain. That's where a lot of people did not like the cash shop, and I hope that they learn from that for this one. Okay, next. As a part of our focus on a wide adoption, we wanted to ensure that housing is available to everyone. If you want a house, you can have a house. No exorbitant requirements or high purchase costs, no lotteries, and no onerous upkeep. And if your subscription lapses, don't worry, your horse doesn't get repossessed. And this is where, unfortunately, this is where World of Warcraft raises Doomhammer and slams the ground as a response to FF14's housing problems. In that one sentence, they have addressed the main issues of housing in FF14 because this is how it works. In FF14, to buy a house, you first need to buy a lot, okay? Not plenty, like a lot, a plot of land. And there are 3 sizes. You have small, medium, large. Yoko, it already has a furnished. No, it doesn't. No. You first must buy a plot of land. And this was before the lotteries, okay? I'm going to explain it what it was before, all right? You bought a plot of land, and depending on its location, like Yoko, why does the location matter? Because it dictates the price, just like in real life, right? For example, in Gridania, which is one of the more famous places, one of the most high demand places to have a house, there is a very nice, small plot of land right next to the lake with a waterfall at the back. Small. And it costed like, it can cost upwards of like 3 million gil. I think even more. But in a less than favorable location, like your house is almost like in a subdivision, it's next to a bunch of houses and the view is not that great. You're literally right outside your house is a road, which is nice if all you're after is the house. And it's very affordable. It's much more affordable, more inexpensive at like 1.5, 2 million gil, I think. So yeah, the price difference can be very big. And what do they mean by lotteries, right? What do you mean by lotteries? Remember earlier how I said that there is always a demand for housing and how every expansion, people always ask for, I want housing here, right? I want housing. I know it doesn't make sense, but I want housing in Garlemald. I want housing in Garlemald. I want housing in Elpis, even though it doesn't make any sense. Even though it does not make any sense, a lot of people want housing in every expansion in one zone or two. And it's not just because, one, they have the money and they can buy a house there, or two, they just want the area. But more importantly, FF14 has a growing player base. And the demand for buyable, purchasable houses increases, but the supply for that is not met. It really isn't. The last housing we got was Ishgard, and then that's it. We haven't had new housing since then. Their band-aid solution to that was Island Sanctuary, but it's not the same. It really is not the same. And onerous upkeep. I'm not sure if there are other MMORPGs that have like rent or mortgage or that kind of thing. FF14 does not, but this is where FF14 does have a problem. If your subscription lapses, don't worry, your house does not get repossessed. In FF14, there is an in-game clock you cannot even see. That's the worst part. There's an in-game clock that you cannot see. If you do not set foot in your house for 30 days, I believe it's 30 days, you will get an email telling you, by the way, warning for house demolition. Your house is about to get demolished because you haven't set foot in it. If you want to reset the clock, please log in the game and, put your foot in your house, and then the clock resets for another 30 days. That sucks. I do not like it. Now, back then, I did not complain before because, I played FF14 practically every day. I spent a lot of hours every day in FF14. But over time, like I said, if you guys watch my previous FF14 video, I did stop playing FF14 because of a myriad number of reasons. A lot. And a lot of those reasons are fixable, in my opinion. But I'd rather spend my monthly subscription elsewhere. And Yoshi P himself tacitly encourages people, if you do not have the motivation to play the game, or there are other stuff you want to do or play that is not Final Fantasy XIV, please do not burn yourselves out. Do not force yourself to play the game. Play something else. Yoshi P, I am literally forced to, because if I don't, my house gets demolished. Yoko, does that mean that all that gil you spent is wasted? Not exactly. When your house gets demolished, you get refunded, I believe, 80%, 90% of the gil that was spent to buy the lot. Okay, just the lot. So, if your plot of land, if it costs 3 million gil, at best you get 2.7 million. At worst, you get 2.4 million gil back, which is pretty good. But do note, money in FF14, you can get that back. You can get that back with time. You can get that back without even crafting or gathering. It will take time, but you'll get it back. But the plot of land, especially if it's a high demand beachside plot of land, that's gone because somebody else is going to buy that. Regardless if they don't want it or if they want it. Because remember what I said earlier. The demand for housing in FF14 is high, but the supply of houses is very low. It's not meeting that demand. By now, the people who want a house have been sitting on their stacks of gil that they've been wanting to spend on a house, waiting for a plot of land to open. They will genuinely not care if it's above their budget because the amount of time they've spent just stockpiling that gil has inflated their budget where they can buy 3 plots of land if they had to. Now again, Yoshi P knows that there are people who do that. So they limited how houses can be bought. Oh, a free company / guild can only own 1 house. And a player can only own 1 house. Alright, that is good because he doesn't want people to resell their houses, which is very complicated and almost impossible to do, but it can be done. And good on Yoshi P. But problem, like I said, demand insanely high. Supply, it's not even remotely being met. Opportunity like that does not come twice easily. And that's exactly what you miss. All that gil that you had to save up to buy a house, you can get that back. The opportunity of getting a house, that may or may not come back. That's a very, very big problem. Your houses are also shared amongst your warband with your different characters being able to come and go as you see fit. So your orc character can hang out in your alliances. That is really cool. Housing rewards are also shared across your warband, so you'll be able to use your decor collection no matter which character earns it. That's so freaking cool. I like that. Furthermore, it is not just warbands that cross faction alliance, but friendships as well. You'll be able to live in, oh my god, or visit your friends or guildmates' houses and their neighborhoods with minimal restrictions regarding faction. For example, while it is not possible for a human character to buy a house in the Horde Zone, your troll character in the same warband can, and then your human can use it as if it were their own. That is nice. Alright. Initial concept art of what the new Horde neighborhood can be. That's very nice. It's very Ogrimmar-ish. Before we go, we want to mention the concept of neighborhoods as a small tease. Houses are organized into roughly 50 plot neighborhoods, letting players live next to each other, work together, and share in the rewards of being part of the neighborhood. Neighborhoods are instanced, but crucially also persistent, so your neighbors can be your neighbors for years to come, or until one of you moves. Neighborhoods can also come in 2 flavors. Public neighborhoods, which the game servers are responsible for creating as needed and maintaining. Private neighborhoods created by groups of friends or guilds to inhabit, progress, and customize together. That is really nice. In FF14, number 2 is impossible. We've tried doing this. We had a plot of land in Mists, which is Limsa Lominsa. Problem is, because of the housing problem in FF14, some of us live in the Lavender Beds, which is in Gridania. Some of us live in the Goblet, which is in Thanalan. So yeah, we're spread across. We cannot have our houses in the same division or region or neighborhood in this case, because there's a housing shortage in FF14. So while an individual player can have a house, a community can have a neighborhood. That is so freaking cool. This is just an initial look at the blueprint we've been working on for housing. There's a lot more ground to cover and details to get into, and we look forward to your thoughts and feedback as we share more articles in the future. Thank you, World of Warcraft dev team. Thank you, World of Warcraft dev team, for that nice article about housing. Wow. So, it's very funny how, again, in a few sentences, WoW addressed the issues of FF14 while emphasizing, like, yeah, this housing thing is not a jab at FF14, but we are not blind to the issues of housing in FF14. Like, we are addressing it here, but hey, we are also doing our own thing. And this is what I have been asking for WoW to do for the past decade that I've been playing Final Fantasy XIV. Learn from your competitor, right? For a period of time, FF14 was always the one kicking WoW's ass. Now that gap has gotten smaller and smaller once in a while, but now I honestly think World of Warcraft has caught up because now the issues, the unaddressed issues, the unmet player feedback of FF14, that stack has gotten so high that instead of focusing on making new stuff, the dev team for FF14 now has to focus on that. Like, you know, they have to now focus on the problem at hand. They have to focus on that now. They cannot focus all their attention on new stuff they want to add. They have to focus now, at least they need to put a considerable amount of focus on the problems that are plaguing the game right now. Not to say that WoW does not have that, but clearly, if WoW is able to introduce new content like this, housing, it's a very big deal. This has been asked for years. We're finally getting it. 2 decades, in fact, if I'm not mistaken. Like, isn't WoW 2 decades old already? Yeah. WoW players are finally getting what they've been asking for. Although it has taken this long, the wait is over. Now it's FF14's turn to learn from WoW, and I genuinely hope they do. I really hope they do.